Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, live from New York, welcome to Brett's Guest, starring the 2829 Brilliance Band. And now, your host, Brett Ari Fischer, the New York City Brooker.
Welcome to another exciting edition of Brett's Guests. I'm glad to have you here along for the ride, and I'm excited to welcome one of the top real estate advisors at Mantus NYC, a distinguished DJ, retired sneakerhead, and basketball enthusiast, Mr. Not Your Ordinary himself, Sean Adu-Gyamfi. Sean, thanks for joining us today. How are you feeling?
Hey, Brett, I'm really glad to be here. I am feeling fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you along. So, talk about your transition between, doing the DJ stuff with Not Your Ordinary and real estate. How did it work with the rebranding to Not Your Ordinary?
Yeah, so with Not Your Ordinary, I was really thinking of how can I encompass both being a DJ, an event curator, and also a real estate broker. And something that I worked on with a number of friends and people within the industry. I just wanted to have something that literally related to all of that, right? And one of my friends was like, oh, you're really, sounds like you're pretty extraordinary. And then I was talking to, a friend of mine, and he was like, well, what about Not Your Ordinary Broker? And then I'm like, well, Not Your Ordinary Broker is cool, but then I'm also Not Your Ordinary DJ. And from there, I thought it was really unique and really compelling to what I wanted to brand myself as, especially being in New York City. I feel like you always needed to have some sort of brand to help you stand out.
Right, and that's really awesome how you talk about your experience and that transition. So, being in real estate and whatnot, what are your favorite things about the real estate industry, and your favorite things specifically, not just about real estate, but New York City real estate?
I think one of my favorite things about the real estate industry is that it's ever changing. It's always evolving, right? One thing that I learned early on in the industry is that it is a very old industry, right? We still deal with things with paper and checks and all of that. But then there's also the other things that are around us that are evolving, like being able to show people 3D videos of homes using different software and having these conversations with buyers and sellers and letting them know, there are all of these different marketplaces that they need to be reaching, whether they want to buy or sell their home. So that's probably one of the most exciting things about the real estate industry, is that things will always be changing. No one day is the same. And more specifically, New York City real estate, I love New York. It's the best city in the world to be. I've always wanted to live here. I'm originally from Providence, Rhode Island, and I think New York real estate industry itself is probably the most lucrative in the world, because the real estate industry in New York City, it doesn't match up with anything else in the entire world, which makes it super unique. It makes it super not ordinary, right? And I think I love just the aspect of the architecture of the buildings, and listening and working with developers, and how they can just create these masterpieces of homes on this small island of Manhattan. It's truly amazing.
Thanks for sharing that, Sean. And do you have any specific goals with real estate or any real estate endeavors?
Goals, honestly, Brett, is to take over New York City. I want to be the most well-known and best real estate broker in New York City that I can be. And I really want New York City to be the hub of my business. Growing up, one thing that I always heard was, if you can make it in New York City, you can make it in any city in the world. And I hold that to a high regard, because not only do I want to do real estate in New York City, I'm also looking to do potentially to do real estate in my home state of Rhode Island, my second home state of Massachusetts, potentially going down south into the West Coast, and then taking it to my home country of Ghana as well. So I think real estate is always going to be in my future, and I think I want to get into more of the developer side when I go abroad with it.
So you talked about your real estate background and what that means to you, but how about DJing? What is that like? What's the industry like, and how are you different from some of the other DJs?
So DJing, it's something that came to me because when I first moved to New York, I had a job at a small startup, which I thought was really cool. The CEO had actually reached out to me via LinkedIn and got me on board. And they made all of these promises that they couldn't see through. So 6 months into it, they actually laid off the entire sales team. And that had me thinking for a few weeks of what I really loved. And at the time, I really loved music, and it's funny, at the same time as when I started getting my real estate education and I took those courses, but I had a friend of mine that I knew from my childhood. He lived in Queens, and ever since I can remember, he was a DJ, like he was DJing high school dances, and I asked him if he could teach me how to DJ. I've always had a thorough library of music, and I had all of this music knowledge, and when I was in college, whenever we would throw parties in my dorm or my apartment, they would call me DJ YouTube at the time because YouTube was fresh out and all the music was on YouTube or on someone's phone. And I was just making playlists and playing it through there. And that was really, really fun. And being able to combine them has been amazing because now I've been DJing all over New York City. I've DJed in Rhode Island. I've DJed in Boston. I've DJed in Atlanta. I've DJed in Ghana as well. And I'm meeting so many people that I probably wouldn't have met if I wasn't DJing. So a lot of the organizers behind these events and these parties and these venue owners that also have a number of endeavors outside of nightlife that I like to have conversations with about, like, hey, listen, if you're looking to buy or looking to sell, obviously we can have that conversation as well. But then the fact that I can DJ, it brings me into a whole other demographic, and getting them to know, hey, Sean is the DJ, but Sean is also the real estate broker in New York City. I can turn to him for a number of things in New York. Not only do I go to these venues, there's bars, there's restaurant owners that I meet, and everything sort of encompasses around what you're doing, and being able to say, hey, I do real estate, it's a really seamless transition, and definitely a seamless icebreaker.
And Sean, are you doing anything specifically to combine your real estate life with your DJ life?
At this time, I'm really focusing on Not Your Ordinary and focusing that as the rebrand of myself as a DJ and a real estate broker. One thing that I am doing that I just recently started doing is DJing. My buyers once we close on a home for them. I offer to DJ their housewarming, and I've done that twice so far, and it's been a really good time. And I've actually met other clients through that. So it's a really interesting way to meet clients while you're also DJing. But again, it just encompasses and comes around full circle.
So what's a unique fact or story about yourself? I mean, I know you have a math background. Is there anything you can share regarding that?
Interesting story. Well, I mean, I changed my major 3 times. So that's interesting in and of itself. At first, I wanted to be a physical therapist. I thought I really wanted to be, behind or on the sports benches of, NBA or NFL teams and helping their athletes, recoup, whether through injury or anything that's ailing them. I was a big basketball player in high school, in college as well. So I thought that was my go-to, and then I realized, hey, I didn't really want to do this. Then I switched over to business, and I thought, business really isn't for me, not in this sense anyway. I think potentially getting an MBA maybe in the future, but then I really just thought back and had a conversation with my high school college advisor. And she said, well, what do you really love? What subjects in school did you really love? And at the time, I really loved math. So I was like, you know what, I'll just be a math major. You know, how much more difficult can college math be than high school math, right? But I was in for a rude awakening for sure. Once we started getting rid of numbers and going more into the alphabet and theorems, you know, it was definitely something that challenged me, but I was able to overcome it, and it felt great. I'm very much into numbers. You know, that's how I sort of relate it back to real estate. If anyone is looking for any analytical reports as it comes to investing, that's something that I'm really, really good with. So I always have that math background and that math cap on, even with real estate.
We've heard a lot of exciting stories and about real estate is the most exciting time of your life. It's fun, New York City. But what about some things that really didn't work out your way to give people more realistic perspective of how real estate is here?
Yeah. A lot of times people see all the good that comes with real estate on social media, right? And something that I think I want to start doing is showing some of the failures in real estate as well. Because yes, there are great homes that we see. There are great clients that we work with. Obviously, there are great commissions that come with selling amazing homes as well. But a lot of that stuff takes time, and a lot of that stuff can wear on you when things don't work out. You know, most people know when you're first starting off in the real estate industry, you may not get paid for close to 6 months to a year once you have your first deal. And that's something that, you know, was true in my case. Fortunately enough, I was able to be part-time, but then I quickly realized in order to succeed where I wanted to, I had to dive in and be a real estate agent full-time. But one instance that I would consider a lesson, because we don't like to say failures, right? I would say a lesson is definitely not putting all your eggs in one basket. So one thing that what I would say it was disappointing. But I was working on a deal with my buyer, and we were working on getting in contract. So the buyer had told his wife and his daughter, who he was buying the apartment for, that we got the accepted offer. Now, as you know, once you have an accepted offer, it doesn't necessarily mean you've locked in to getting the home, right? Things aren't in contract yet. So this was actually their Christmas gift. So 2 days after Christmas, I'm reaching out to the listing agent and I'm saying, hey, we have the contract revisions. We're sending it over. Please get it over to us as soon as you can. A day goes by, 2 days goes by, 3 days go by, and I reach back out. It's like, hey, listen, you know, we haven't gotten your revisions. Is everything okay? He's like, oh, Sean, don't worry about it. Things are great. I'm not showing the apartment to anyone. We've got you guys locked in. You know, we want to make sure we get this done as soon as possible. Just the seller's attorney, he's dealing with some other issues right now, so we can't get over to the contract revision. So I said, okay. Now it's a week. Now it's 2 weeks. Now it's 3 weeks, all the way to about 6 weeks. And throughout this time, I'm reaching back out. I'm getting reassurance from the listing agent that he's not showing to anybody and that the seller's attorney he just hasn't gotten to it yet. I'm telling my buyer, he said, hey, listen, I'm getting reassurance from the listing agent. Everything is all good. Till one day, he gives me a call. He says, hey, Sean, just wanted to let you know we're having a best and final offer on the apartment tomorrow. So if your buyer wants to up his price, you know, just let me know. And then I'm like, dude, you just told me for weeks now that everything is all good. You're not showing the apartment to anyone else. Granted, we know things aren't set in stone until contracts are fully executed, but you know, you sort of gave me your word, and I've been telling my buyer this. And he's like, yeah, Sean, well, you know, your attorney sent over a number of 12 pages of revisions that he had to go through, so I had to keep showing. And I said, listen, the attorney could send over 1,200 pages of revisions. You know, your attorney's job is to get this thing done. And you made it seem like we were good to go. So I had to break it to my buyer, and my buyer wanted to get out of that. He didn't want to put in another offer. He just said if that guy was, you know, genuine enough from the start to say, hey, listen, we're not going to take it for lower than this price, then he would have bumped his offer up. So we just backed out of the deal. And we didn't end up closing, and it was unfortunate because they were a really nice family, and they were really excited about the apartment. We had seen maybe 30 properties prior to So that was tough. That's probably one of the most disappointing things in real estate.
So, I mean, that's pretty brutal. And I'm sure you get a lot of things like that in your career. So if there's one piece of advice for someone wanting to get into the industry, what would that be?
One piece of advice, I would say definitely save your money, especially if you're just signing off. That's always the first thing. But always, always, always be super transparent and very responsive to your clients and your customers. I can't say that enough, because what I've experienced is my customers and my clients, they really do appreciate and they remember how responsive and timely I can be when it comes to communications. And they really appreciate that. And it's something that they tell their friends, and I've gotten referrals just based off my timeliness and my responses. It's really as simple as that. As soon as I get the text message, I answer right away. So that is something that I would say to any new agent. If it's possible, do your hardest, try your hardest to be responsive in a very, very, very timely fashion.
That's great advice. We appreciate you sharing that, Sean. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today on this edition of Brett's Guest. I hope you had as much fun as I had. Thank you, Sean. I really enjoyed it and getting to chat with you. And thank you, friends. If you have any questions for Sean, please make sure that you reach out to him. And we have his information listed right below, but you can contact him. Check him out on Instagram, NYO Broker, Instagram, NYO DJ, TikTok, NYO Broker, and reach him at Sean@notyourordinarybroker.com. If you guys have any questions, or if you want to reach me, please hit me up at brett@thenewyorkcitybroker.com. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to both Sean and myself, so that you, your friends, and your family members can get all the best relevant content. I'm Brett R.A. Fischer, the New York City Broker. Have a great day.
Thank you for attending. Please head toward the exit near the back of the theater.